In the past, on Skull Island, Bill Randa records a desperate message to a friend, stating that he has discovered something fundamental. The recording is interrupted when he flees from a colossal arachnid creature. With no way out, he throws his bag into the sea, shortly before a second monster emerges, initiating a brutal fight with the spider and giving Bill the perfect opportunity to escape. In 2013, the same leather package is rescued from the ocean by a fishing boat's net. In the present, Cate awaits disembarkation from her flight in Japan, when teams in protective suits board the aircraft for disinfection. A passenger next to her complains that the protocol is useless against monster attacks, and this triggers traumatic flashbacks in her mind. Soldiers, rain, and destruction. The airport is lined with signs indicating evacuation routes to protect against Godzilla. After going through immigration under the pretext of settling matters for her recently deceased father, Shion Zakal is rude to her mother and heads to his old apartment. She uses a key to unlock the door and finds photos of her father, including those showing him smiling alongside another family. An unknown woman enters the apartment and two women begin to argue, hindered by the language barrier. The woman's son, Kintaro, intervenes in English, demanding to find out what Cate is doing there. She says she has the key and that the man in the photos is also her father. In 1959, Lee Shaw, Dr. Keiko, and young Bill Randa are driving down a mysterious road. Bill questions the route, but Keiko confirms the direction, noticing the radiation levels rising drastically on the meters. The trio dons gas masks, determined to prove that their theories are not delusions. Lee, acting only as an armed escort, accompanies them to a restricted area. They're there surprised by a boy hunting without any protection, who warns that the radiation story is just a government lie to keep curious people away. They move forward and find an abandoned facility where the meters actually register zero radiation. Keiko, Bill, and Lee detonate explosives on the ground, revealing a hidden crater. The group descends and finds hundreds of strange eggs underground. Keiko concludes that it is a new type of creature and, against Lee's warnings, she decides to go even further down to investigate. Up close, the soldier is forced to follow her to try and ensure her safety. Back in the present, Cate talks to the family. Kintaro and Emiko's mother asks if she knows what happened to Hiroshi. At the balcony, Cate just asks for an apology and leaves the apartment. On the streets of Tokyo, she vents on the phone to her mother, but then the sound of an attack alarm goes off. The call is cut off. Panic grips the crowd. Then Kintaro and Emiko find her amidst the chaos and drag her away to an underground shelter designed to withstand Godzilla attacks. The confinement and the sound of the siren triggers a flashback. On G-Day, in San Francisco, she was trapped on a school bus on the Golden Gate Bridge. While trying to evacuate the children, the concrete structure gave way. The bus, still full, plunged into the abyss right before her eyes. When the security system signals that the threat has passed and the shelter doors open, Kintaro takes his half-sister to his father's old office. Hidden behind a map on the wall, they find an old safe. Cate unlocks the metal door, revealing the same bag that Bill Randa threw into the ocean. The leather bears the same logo embossed on the soldiers' uniforms that she saw during the attack on San Francisco. Kintaro takes the bag to May, a trusted hacker. Although reluctant, she agrees to decrypt the disks. Rigid, as soon as she breaks into the system and accesses the files, the Monarch organization's servers detect the intrusion in the same hour. An analyst traces the origin of the signal and alerts her superiors. In May's apartment, the screen displays dozens of confidential files that she cannot decipher. One of them, however, catches the siblings' attention, a document almost identical to the office map. Looking at the findings, Cate finally reveals that days after the bridge tragedy, Hiroshi found her alive. But instead of support, he only gave her cryptic instructions, apologized, and abandoned her in the middle of the chaos. Shortly after, the plane he escaped in disappeared from radar. The exploration of the files continues until they open an ancient record showing a colossal footprint in the ground with a woman standing in the center of it. They recognize the face of Keiko, their grandmother, Back in 1959, at the bottom of the crater, Keiko begins collecting samples from the eggs. The impact of a tremor causes the structure to give way even further, awakening a swarm of giant insectoid creatures. Lee and Keiko try to retreat, but they are surrounded underground. The soldier draws his weapon and fires at the horde, but the bullets are useless. Against the monsters, the insects grab Keiko and pull her forcefully towards the abyss. In 1952, Lee is assigned to provide security for a Japanese scientist, Dr. Keiko. The relationship starts off tense, but she takes him to the investigation site in the Philippines, where a military plane collected mysterious radioisotopes in the air. While Keiko surveys the area, noises are heard in the forest. They attract attention, and Lee steps forward to check, holding young Bill Randa at gunpoint. He introduces himself as a cryptozoologist and reveals that local myths speak of a dragon responsible for the radiation. Despite Lee's irritated skepticism, he decides to abandon them in a jeep, but Keiko and Bill join forces. They align the maps of radiation and discover the location of a colossal military ship stranded in the middle of the jungle. Inside the vessel, Bill confesses that he had already seen the creature when he was a passenger on that same ship, and that he needs to record it. The pair find the bodies of the crew in a thick, organic goo that blocks the entrance, leaving them cornered. Back in the present, Kentaro goes to his father's office and, overcome with rage, begins to break the place. He finds a locked drawer, uses the keys given to him by Cate, and discovers a confidential Monarch file containing an old recording from the Philippines about Lee Shaw. Meanwhile, Cate walks through Tokyo, planning to leave without noticing that she's being watched. At the station, Agent Tim approaches her, demanding the files. She reacts, throws her cell phone against him, and flees, but is intercepted by the woman who was chasing her and thrown into a car. Tim covers her head with a hood, which instantly triggers her San Francisco traumas. In a panic, Cate attacks the driver and causes a car accident, using the chaos to escape. She tries to ask the local police for help, but the officer scoffs at the story, thinking she's drunk. With no other options, she flees to Mei's apartment. Meanwhile, Kentaro talks to his mother, Emiko, and the two share a moment tearing up photos of Hiroshi. Upon arriving at Mei's apartment, Cate is pulled outside by the hacker before they realize it, as Tim is inspecting the location. Kentaro questions his mother about Lee's whereabouts, but the conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Tim and his agents at the door. With Emiko's help to distract the intruders, the young man escapes through the back and reunites with Cate and Mei, letting them know exactly where they should go. The trio heads to a sort of spa that functions as a colony for rest and finds veteran Lee Shaw. Upon learning that they have Monarch's confidential files and searching for security, he reveals that the location is a cover for the agency's own assets to monitor its security. Without hesitation, he cuts off his own electronic ankle monitor and gives the group a few seconds to decide whether or not to follow him. Back to the ship in 1952, the massive creature attacks the structure, breaking through the metal walls and trapping Bill under rubble. Lee returns just in time to rescue his companion and free him from the weight. The three run to the convoy as the vessel is completely overturned by the monster's brutal force. The trio watches, paralyzed by the imposing creature that emerges from the jungle. Realizing that Monarch is spying on the group, Lee tries to disguise it by maintaining a casual conversation, but the strategy fails and the net closes in. With no options, they run to Avon. The modern dashboard confuses the veteran for a second, but he takes the wheel and accelerates. Guards block the route, forcing him to perform risky maneuvers until he breaks through the main entrance, leaving the safety of the agency eating dust. In the past, the organization's foundation has faced resistance. Lee, Keiko, and Bill try to get government support with General Puckett, who scoffs at the project until Keiko throws a picture of a colossal footprint on the table. They demand a massive amount of uranium. Puckett hesitates, but assures them of the funds, arguing that the monster represents a threat of global scale. After the army leaves, the tension between Bill and Lee becomes evident, demanding that Keiko intervene to calm her team down. Back to the escape in the present, Lee explains that Bill used to doodle compulsively, watching everything he saw, a detail that Kintaro and Cate recognize immediately in their own father. May interrupts the conversation, informing the group that the files have already been digitized, saving them the risk of returning to the apartment. The focus now is to look for clues about Alaska to understand Hiroshi's objective. He hints that Monarch should be a beacon of hope, but lost its way, starting to hunt people instead of focusing on monsters. Furious upon realizing that the agency is the curse of her family, Cate exits the vehicle. Out of sight, May sends a message promising someone that she will be back soon, and then throws her own cell phone into the ocean. The group heads to South Korea, with Kintaro frustrated by the lack of answers. He only assures that they will find a crucial ally for their escape. At the South Korean border, guards block their entry, and the group is grabbed and pushed into a van. The panic is interrupted when one of the officers locks his own colleague in the cargo compartment, revealing that it is Duval, an old friend of Lee's. He takes the wheel and plots the route to Alaska. Meanwhile, Monarch leadership discusses the hunt. The boss tries to remove Agent Tim from the mission, claiming that he made the matter personal. But Duval's partner demands his presence after tracking the group's passage through Asia. In the past, the uranium bait was set up in the water, but the research plan fell apart when General Puckett mobilizes troops and prepares a nuclear warhead focused on extermination. Lee tries to intervene, but is silenced. The sonar goes berserk and Godzilla emerges from the water heading towards the radiation. In desperation, Keiko runs to try and disable the detonation, but Lee immobilizes her. The nuclear flash engulfs the giant as the military celebrates the apparent victory. While Keiko is seething with hatred, Bill calms her down, reminding her that interfering would cost her freedom or her life. To justify the inertia, he guarantees that they now have an unlimited budget and the freedom to hide information from the government, to continue their research. In the present, their final destination is Barrow. During the flight, Cate takes over as co-pilot and confides a whirlwind of anger and confusion she feels towards Hiroshi. Upon landing in Alaska, the group locates the wreckage of their father's plane and recent signs of life at a makeshift camp. Kintaro and Cate embrace, overcome by hope that he survived the impact. The relief is dashed when Duval finds colossal claw marks tearing through the fuselage. He shouts a warning and runs back to prepare for takeoff. But it's too late. The ground trembles and a monstrous creature resembling a colossal mole emerges from the ice. With a lethal, freezing breath, the monster strikes the aircraft, freezing the transport and killing Duval. In the hollow earth, Dr. Barnes, a member of Monarch, monitors concerning data in his trailer and makes an emergency call. In Alaska, Kintaro fires a flare at the Titan, but only distracts it for a moment. The group flees and hides in a small cave, but the monster's heavy footsteps cause the ice to give way. May falls into the freezing waters, and Shaw orders total silence to avoid another attack. He argues with Kintaro, asking if he's happy that they are there. Then he remembers a year ago when he was at his first art exhibition and felt frustrated, not knowing how to define his work. Upon leaving the event, he met May, and the two began dating. At that time, she was vague about her past, revealing only that she worked with computers. Surprised that he had traded his big night to stay with her, she went with him to his apartment, where Kintaro confided about the limitations of the gallery. When his cell phone rang, he ignored it and kissed her. Back in the present, he insists he saw a building-like structure on the horizon. Without the support of the group, which prefers to follow a route with a higher probability of finding rescue, he decides to move on. Alone towards what he saw, Cate tries to stop him, but he decides to go anyway. Meanwhile, in the offices of Monarch, analysts identify energy spikes in Alaska equivalent to those detected only in supermassive black holes. Massive, a signature identical to the one that preceded G-Day. In the blizzard, Kintaro loses his strength and collapses on the ground. Far away, the rest of the group reaches Hiroshi's tent, and May begins to deliriously faint due to extreme hypothermia. Shaw explains that the mysterious light they spotted is the result of unpredictable environmental changes caused by Titans. Kintaro hallucinates again about his first encounter with May, who lied on a call to her sister about what she was doing in Japan and promising to return soon. In the tent, May regains lucidity for a moment and asks Cate that, if they do not survive, to find her sister and explain the whole truth. To try to keep the group warm, they begin to burn Hiroshi's documents, but the bonfire attracts the Titan. The creature emerges, sucking all the heat and freezing the surrounding environment. Perceiving the monster's biological pattern, Shaw plans to use the plane's fuel as a flammable thermal distraction. On the verge of collapse, May begs Cate to ensure her own survival and not die with them. At the same time, Kintaro's hallucination transforms into the figure of his father, which gives him the necessary breath to get up and reach the building. In ruins, inside, he locates an old radio and manages to send out a distress call. At the camp, the Titan advances against May before Shaw's plan is executed. To protect herself from the physical attack, she uses the bag with Hiroshi's files as a shield. Shaw ignites the fuel, forcing the monster to retreat with the thermal explosion. At that moment, a helicopter appears in the sky and rescues them. To everyone's surprise, Hiroshi is inside, ensuring that everyone be saved. May thanks Cate for not abandoning her, while Shaw laments upon noticing that the notebook with Hiroshi's confidential data was completely frozen. Later, as soon as the helicopter lands, Agent Tim from Monarch is waiting for the group. Monarch holds the group captive at an isolated command post in Alaska. Cate tries to maintain composure in the interrogation room, while Kintaro explodes in the next room, yelling that he is the son of Hiroshi and throws a chair at the door. In another room, Agent Duval pressures May and questions her about the file backup, saying she knows that her real name is Cora and she lives in Washington. Duval hands her a card and plants the seed that they can be useful to each other. Meanwhile, Tim proposes recruiting the trio, but Vice Director Verdugo refuses. Duval suggests releasing them with a long leash and using them as hunting dogs to see what they dig up. That idea is accepted. The agency delivers fake passports, money, clean cell phones, and plane tickets for the three of them. May wants to escape back to her life in Tokyo, but Cate and Kintaro are determined to track down their father. Knowing it's too dangerous to separate now, they decide to continue together. The next destination is Hiroshi's old office in San Francisco. Meanwhile, Shaw confronts Verdugo, criticizing Monarch's bureaucracy and inertia. She tries to bluff by saying that the young people have already spoken about the plans, but he does not fall into the trap. Meanwhile, Tim and Duval discuss a detail about Shaw that a mistake in the past altered his biological clock, causing him to age abnormally. In San Francisco, James, a friend of Cate's mother Caroline, picks the group up at the airport. Upon arriving at her house, Cate reveals Kintaro's existence and full name, leaving her mother completely stunned. It turns out that after G-Day, Cate locked herself in her room, consumed by trauma, and Caroline pushed her towards the trip to Japan to learn more about her father. Now she plans to break into Hiroshi's office, located in the Red Zone, a militarily isolated and ruined area. Caroline helps the group break through the perimeter, but needs to let them continue on their own. Walking through the rubble, Cate has a flashback to 2 days before Godzilla attacked. She worked at the same school as her girlfriend Danny, who had just asked to live with her. On G-Day, with the school emptying in panic, Cate refused a safe shelter next to Danny and chose the bus with her students. In truth, she was being suffocated. Escaping to the bus was not only a duty, but also an excuse to get away from her girlfriend. Back in the present, military patrols are searching the restricted area. The trio hides, and Kintaro uses a bag of chips to lure stray cats, creating a quick distraction that keeps the guards away. To ease Cate's panic, he hums an old song of their fathers, but the noise draws the soldiers back. They run desperately to an underpass, but she freezes. May reassures her and tries to help her regulate her breathing. Then, Cate vents her self-loathing, confessing to the betrayal and saying that she does not think she is better than her father. Kintaro interrupts the crisis by announcing that he has found the final route. Inside the office, they find an enigmatic map. Initially confused, Kintaro uses his sharp artist's eye to decipher the perspective of the markings and break the code. Hiroshi's next stop, after Alaska, was precisely traced to Africa. The trio escapes the red zone and returns to Caroline's house. But while Cate reveals to her mother that Hiroshi is still alive, May steps away and makes a direct call to Agent Duval. In 1955, Shaw and Keiko attend a summer ball to curry favor with the military before the presentation of the Monarch budget. Uncomfortable at the event, Keiko is offended by General Puckett, and the two move away to a secluded table. Frustrated, she predicts that the army will continue to only kill the Titans instead of allowing them to be studied. Shaw compliments her, lightens the mood, and asks her to dance. The flirtation and chemistry between the two begin to flow, but the moment is cut off by an urgent telegram from Bill Randa. In the present, Monarch agents are transporting Shaw into custody. The vehicle is intercepted by Agent Duval, who takes down the guards and takes control of the vehicle. She interrogates the veteran, questioning how he knows more than the organization's own physicists. Duval says her sister Sandra Brody died in the Janjira nuclear incident. Her goal at Monarch is to prevent a similar disaster from happening again, and she believes Shaw is the key to that. In San Francisco, Cate, May, and Kintaro arrive at Caroline's house and find Shaw and Duval waiting for them. He warns that Hiroshi is trying to prevent a catastrophic event and that they need to reach him. At the Monarch base, Verdugo and Tim try to decipher his route without sunlight to reveal the map's original secret. It had small notes and holes in the wall corresponding to the agency's outposts. By cross-referencing the data, he narrows the search down to 3 possible locations: Central Asia, Cambodia, or Africa. Back in 1955, Bill warns about the possible appearance of a new Titan in Japan. The timing is terrible, falling in the exact week of the budget meeting. Shaw decides to stay to deal with Puckett, while Bill and Keiko travel to investigate. On Infant Island, the pair encounter the scientist Suzuki, creator of a gamma radiation simulator designed to communicate with the creatures, or as Bill quickly deduces, a perfect bait. Upon being informed of the discovery, Shaw tries to speak with General Puckett, who tells him he must focus on his career or suffer the consequences. In the present in Africa, Shaw, Duval, and the trio arrive at the coordinates. They spot Hiroshi setting up an identical gamma radiation simulator next to a truck. Cate and Kintaro scream with excitement upon seeing their father alive, and he waves his arms, but he is not greeting his children. He is telling everyone to run away. In a panic, Hiroshi gets into the truck and speeds away. Soon after, Tim and a Monarch squad arrive by helicopter. On Infant Island, Shaw shows up at the camp after abandoning the meeting, and Keiko gets angry, saying that their duty to Monarch and the research should come before their personal happiness. Even so, the two kiss. Suddenly, the gamma radiation simulator is violently hurled out of the ocean. In their direction, Godzilla emerges from the water, roaring and proving that the nuclear warhead never killed him. In the present, the Titan emerges from underground, devastating the area and nearly crushing Cate, May, and Kintaro with the Jeep. He lowers himself and faces Cate in the eyes before turning his back and walking away. Cate wants to run away, but Shaw decides to follow the trail of the monster, claiming he wants to help him. She calls him crazy and turns her back, dragging Kintaro and May with her. In the middle of the escape, May confesses that she was the one who contacted Duval and leaked their location in exchange for a ticket to go back home. Cate gets furious and refuses to continue listening. Tim wakes up in the desert as the sole survivor of the helicopter crash. At the nearest airport, Cate and Kintaro discuss their father's involvement with Godzilla. She wants to find out the truth while her brother prefers to run away. Unbeknownst to them, May is in the bathroom. The two try to find her, but without success. Tim arrives at the airport and is attacked by the siblings who blame Monarch because of the disappearance. He calms the situation and proposes a deal. If he helps rescue May, Cate and Kintaro will help him locate Shaw. At Monarch Outpost 88, Duval and Shaw arrive with armed henchmen and take control of the location. Dr. Barnes manages to escape and contacts Verdugo. Cate remembers May's request from Alaska and says that they need to contact her sister. Then Tim reveals that she uses a fake passport and that her real name is Cora. 30 months. Earlier, she was hired by the technology company ET. When questioning her boss Brenda about the misuse of a code that she created, she gets the response that everything is company property. In the present, Cate, Kentaro, and Tim visit her family's house and invent a story to get closer to her sister. Even though she is suspicious, she reveals that Cora locked the ET system before fleeing to Japan. At company headquarters, Cora confronts Brenda, revealing that she discovered videos of cruel experiments on monkeys conducted by the corporation. Outside, Tim triggers a false Titan attack alarm in the city to create panic and facilitate the invasion of the building. Brenda notices the distraction and offers Cora an alternative: infiltrate Monarch as a spy in exchange for her freedom. Tim, Cate, and Kentaro find her in the building, but she rejects them and refuses to run away with them. As they leave AET, they run into Verdugo. Cate convinces her to help Cora under the same conditions as the deal made with Tim. Meanwhile, determined to pay for her own mistakes, Cora refuses Brenda's offer to spy on her. However, Verdugo calls her and negotiates the girl's release directly. Free, she reunites with Cate and Kentaro and asks them to call her May again. Verdugo decides to bring Monarch out of the shadows and goes on TV to take responsibility for the false alarm, revealing the agency's work to the public. Watching the broadcast, Brenda comments that the deal with Monarch will be profitable, while the AET screen reveals its new corporate identity, Apex Cybernetics. Meanwhile, Shaw and his team return to Alaska. They track the Ice Titan, plant explosives, and detonate the area, killing the creature and creating a huge crater in the ground. Then Shaw observes the destruction satisfaite. Shaw and Duval arrive in Kazakhstan with the objective of eliminating another Titan. Duval targets the easier one, but Shaw refuses. In 1955, Keiko, Bill, and Shaw report to Lieutenant What, the new person in charge of Monarch. He belittles the team's work and offends Keiko with racist comments, almost provoking an attack from Bill. Then, the team is banished to the basement. With no other options, Shaw suggests that they gather all the evidence in a detailed map as a last-ditch effort to save the project. Bill and Keiko dive into the work, and proximity strengthens the trust between them. In the present, Tim takes Cate, Kentaro, and May to Monarch headquarters. The objective is to track down and stop the Titan slaughter before it triggers a new G-Day. While investigating the ancient files, Cate discovers that her grandmother Keiko's death occurred in Kazakhstan, one of the points marked on Hiroshi's map. Since the agency has no jurisdiction to operate in the area, Verdugo authorizes an unofficial mission with a reduced team. Cate assures Shaw that he will not shoot them, and Tim offers to accompany them. During the journey, Cate refuses the bulletproof vest, arguing that entering with weapons drawn would only negate the chance of dialogue. In Kazakhstan, the group enters the ruined facilities and discovers hundreds of empty shells, indicating that the Titans have grown, shed their skin, and are even more lethal. In the center of the complex, they find a massive hole, surrounded by explosives that Tim identifies as a portal to the world of monsters. Duval intercepts the group and orders them to retreat. Shaw agrees to negotiate, but demands to speak to Cate alone. He explains that the Titans possess their own ecosystem, which he has already visited. According to him, Godzilla does not want to destroy humanity, only to keep the two species separate in their respective worlds. Sealing the portals is the way he found to fix his mistakes. Back in 1955, Bill watches an ant cross a hole in the map and has an epiphany. He runs to Keiko's room and presents the Hollow Earth theory, a kingdom underground where the Titans coexist with the surface. The conversation is interrupted by a 3-year-old Hiroshi. Then Keiko confesses that she hid her son so as not to further damage her career, already discredited by the army. Because of being a woman and Japanese, Bill promises to help her. With the map finalized, Shaw intercepts General Puckett and secures his attention with a single revelation. Godzilla is alive. In the present, Cate tries to convince Shaw to abort the plan, but he ignores her plea and activates the detonator. The explosions begin and the structure collapses. Then May slips and falls into the portal. Seconds later, one of the creatures emerges from the hole, grabs Cate, and drags her into the abyss. Shaw tries to grab her to save her, but the weight gives way and they are both swallowed by the darkness. In the past, Bill and Shaw say goodbye to young Hiroshi before mission. Shaw hands his knife to the boy and enters an exploration. Capsule positioned directly above a portal. Since only Titans can cross the rift, the team activates a radiation simulator to attract a creature and hitch a ride across the crossing. The launch quickly becomes a disaster. A hurricane forms above the portal. The structure collapses and communications are cut off. Bill returns home alone and Hiroshi's sad look confirms that they lost Shaw. In the present, Kintaro wakes up confused in a hospital bed. Tim and Verdugo bring the news that the collapse in Kazakhstan was fatal and Cate and May are dead. Refusing to accept, Kintaro demands a rescue mission. But Verdugo says that is the only thing he can do for the family. Now it is time to keep living. Far from the surface, Shaw awakens in a barren forest within the world of the Titans, disoriented and paralyzed as he stares at the unfamiliar ground. As the earth begins to concentrate electricity, Shaw advances and knocks May down, saving her from a lethal lightning strike at the last second. He reveals that he already knows the hostile terrain from an old reconnaissance mission and warns that the absolute priority is finding Cate. A flashback reveals the fate of Shaw after his first trip to the Hollow Earth. Upon returning, he was locked in a Monarch facility and subjected to daily exams. In an escape attempt, he takes a nurse hostage, but is stopped by a man he barely recognizes. Hiroshi, 20 years older. Hiroshi does not believe the stories about the underground kingdom and has him committed to an asylum. There, Shaw is drugged and forgotten until the day the Godzilla attack is on the news and awakens his will to fight. At the Monarch base, Dr. Barnes picks up an anomalous signal and alerts Tim and Verdugo. She discovers that the spikes of gamma radiation are not random, but form a rhythmic pattern. Someone in the monster world is trying to send a message. Meanwhile, in the old family office, Kintaro tries to find answers when he is surprised by Hiroshi's arrival. The father tries to reconnect, but the boy cries and says it is too late for conversations, as Cate is dead. Initially, Hiroshi goes into denial, but soon the two cry together. In the Hollow Earth, Cate wakes up in an apocalyptic area far more dangerous. With no time to get her bearings, she is hunted by a Titan resembling a colossal boar. As the beast lunges to attack her, an arrow pierces the monster's eye. Cate looks around, searching for who fired the shot and finds Keiko, her grandmother, looking exactly the same as the day she fell. Keiko does not seem surprised to find her and asks if Bill or Shaw are with her, but Cate is in shock. Keiko had created a rescue signal and believes she is part of a Monarch tactical team. When she starts to suspect Cate, May and Shaw appear hidden behind a tree. Shaw hesitates to show his aged face before explaining the situation. Realizing she has been trapped in the underworld for decades, Keiko starts to cry. Consolation comes when she discovers that Cate is her granddaughter and that Hiroshi survived. On the surface, Hiroshi confesses to Kintaro that he faked his own disappearance to prove his parents' theory. The rifts exist and are connected. He argues that this discovery is the only way to guarantee human survival and asks for his son's help, who rejects the proposal. Immediately, at Monarch headquarters, Tim tries to track the anomalous signal. Verdugo refuses the ransom, claiming that the agency has other priorities. Kintaro argues that the lost team could save billions of lives and throws in her face that if Monarch abandons them, Shaw was always right about the organization's corruption. In the Hollow Earth, Keiko shows the modified radiation emitter to send pulses to the surface. While Shaw inspects the equipment, she asks about Hiroshi and Cate chooses to spare her grandmother by telling an optimistic and happy version about her father. Shaw devises an escape plan and asks Keiko to reverse the machine's wiring to the original configuration. They improvise stretchers with branches and carry the heavy equipment across the terrain to the old exploration capsule that Shaw used decades ago. The goal is to connect the transmitter to the ship and lure a Titan to force open the portal back to the surface. The plan goes wrong when the radiation attracts a hostile flying Titan that attacks and damages the ship's cables. Shaw exits the capsule to repair the wiring, but Godzilla emerges from a portal and charges at the wing monster. He easily overpowers the creature, giving Cate a chance to start the race. Shaw tries to run back to the capsule, but does not reach the door in time. Keiko grabs her hand in the air, mirroring the tragedy of 1959, but this time Shaw sacrifices himself and lets go of her hand so that the three of them can escape. The ship is sealed and sucked into the rift. They awaken in a brightly lit facility and are greeted by Hiroshi and Kentaro, who warns that much has changed, revealing that the temporal anomaly of the crossing lasted almost 2 years on the surface. As the containment walls of the Apex Cybernetics base close in, King Kong's roar echoes from outside.